The National Investor's motto is, you can get information anywhere, but here you get knowledge. And for well over 40 years now, Chris Temple has imparted that knowledge, an unparalleled, understandable, and useful take on the big picture of the markets and of our world. He has been out in front of what you see on the news every day on many themes. More, Chris has taken this macro knowledge and his unique analytical abilities to uncover unique investment opportunities. Often, he has guided his members to big winners in resources, biotech stocks, and more. His talents and connections often getting him into ground floor opportunities before they are discovered. Without further ado, here is Chris with today's topic.
Welcome in, Chris Temple here with you again, and today I'll be joined in just a couple minutes by my friend Deepak Varshney from Canada. He is the CEO, among other things now, of Formation Metals. This is a company that was spun out of Usha Resources, another one of my recommended companies in the lithium space, one of few I have left these days. Started out to be for the purpose of putting a very nice prospective nickel, copper, and cobalt project into a separate company to help unlock some value for Usha shareholders. One of the ways he's trying to do that these days. But then along came the N2 project, which is a very attractive gold primary project in the Abitibi-Greenstone Belt in Canada. So we're going to get into that today, the whys and wherefores of Formation and why you should be taking a serious look at it. Formation is listed in Canada, of course, as you see here on the screen, under the symbol FOMO, so FOMO, if you will. On the over-the-counter market here in the U.S., it has just a gray market listing as we're recording this today on March the 19th. That is FOMTF, as you also see here. And shortly that will turn into an OTCQB listing, so it'll be that much easier for U.S. investors to buy it without having to go through the step of either buying it direct off Canada, which you should be able to do if you followed me for any length of time, or have to wait for the listing to come live on a QB, one or the other. There are still some firms where you can get a gray market stock, but it's not that easy these days, as some of you already know. But that aside, Formation is a great story, and it really hits a sweet spot that I've been talking about in the context of other recommendations in a recent past. Even with the record gold price recently moving above $3,000 an ounce US, there's still a lot of lethargy in junior mining stocks, especially, even more broadly in gold mining stocks, even where some producers are concerned. Investors are choosier today, as they should be. I've been discussing that. But the environment that we have is that there's a lot of orphaned projects out there that are too big for a small-time private developer to come in, but they're not big enough yet for a major to take an interest in. So if you've got the talent, if you've got the connections, if you've got the money, you can pick up some really cool projects these days. And Formation and Deepak have been able to do that, in part with the help of another mutual friend of Deepak's and mine, Jon Deluce. Some of you recognize that name. He's the CEO of Abitibi Metals, another one of my recommendations. He and Deepak both are integral parts of the respective family offices, so they've been able to raise a lot of money and acquire some projects like this. Abitibi Metals, as you're going to learn when I get into this with Deepak as well, is a very prospective company, and in fact there was a very singular presence on their part at the recent BMO conference in Florida, where I was able to catch up with both Jonathan and his brother Alex Deluce, who runs the Gold Telegraph website. But anyway, before we get into this any further, you see on the screen here the usual forward-looking statement notification. Deepak and or myself might be making forward-looking statements on the health and future plans of Formation, so be aware of that. Secondly, Formation Metals, of course, after it was spun out by Usha last fall, became a recommendation thereby of the national investor. They're now both on my recommended list of speculative story stocks. And subsequent to that, we have been compensated by Formation to do some various media outreach and whatnot, of which this video is a part. Now, besides keeping in touch with and doing some homework yourself on Formation, be sure, if you're not already, that you're on our mailing lists. Follow me on social media. All of that information is here on the screen as well. And last but not least, before Deepak joins us, I want to point out that on my YouTube channel already, if you go back just a short time, you'll see one of the episodes of Your Money Today, which is the video version of a printed newsletter that I'm polishing up anew and sending out an updated version of imminently. This is still not your father's gold market. I give you a lot of history, a lot of do's and don'ts if you're interested in precious metals, but among other things in a video that you really need to watch if you want to be expert on precious metals and know what to do and what not to do. I give a lot of do's and don'ts on the kind of companies that you need to look at today. Because one of the ways in which today's gold market is very decidedly different from the past is that we do not see a rising tide lifting all of the boats. There's still a whole lot of junior exploration companies out there. Maybe they've got good projects, they got nice people running them, but they're just not going to get any traction or any money from far more discerning and focused investors today. I cannot stress that enough. So, it's one thing to have sexy drill results and sexy stories in other respects, but if you're dealing with people that don't have a track record, can't raise money, etc., you're going to be at a loss, as a lot of people already have been for a lot of years now with some of these companies that have done nothing even with the gold price going up. So anyways, with that said, let's bring on Deepak. So, and here is my friend Deepak Varshney, the CEO not only of Usha Resources, as I said, but for present purposes of Formation Metals. Deepak, good to see you as always.
Yeah, it's always good to be here, Chris. Thank you.
Now, you already had for many months a game plan to spin out what's called the Nicobat project from Usha. You guys are good money managers and asset managers, and with the lithium market, and there's other things you're doing to unlock value for Usha, which I'm talking about separately these days. But the Nicobat project is something you've had. Now it's part of Formation Metals. It's not your primary focus, but I don't want to completely ignore that. Tell us a little bit about this. I mean, very prospective nickel and copper project in southern Ontario.
Well, that's it. And I think the key is always trying to unlock shareholder value. And this project really attracted us a few years ago because it had a 64-meter hole from surface of 1% nickel. And the bottom 10 meters that was 2% nickel, some really nice copper hits there. And so our view was, with Usha being a lithium focused company, this wasn't the project getting the love that it deserved. And so we span it out into Formation. And our intention is to be working on this because we do believe in the project, and I think nickel prices in the short term, long term, I think will come back. But this was something that we really wanted to work on, and then of course you ran into N2, and you pivot at $3,000 gold, especially. So.
Well, and that's a great point. A lot of junior companies, because of what goes on in the markets and the prices of different commodities, you've got to repurpose yourself. You've got to go where the action is, so to speak. And when you first told me about the N2 project in the Abitibi-Greenstone Belt, I said, wow, this is pretty cool. And the history of it, which, I'd love for you to get into, as I said in the introduction, folks, this is a kind of a project that I have in mind, not only where Formation is concerned, but I've seen other companies able to get kind of this middle ground, these mid-sized projects, potentially larger ones with a little bit more work that for various reasons other companies abandoned or are not big enough or the circumstances weren't right or whatever. So you and key advisor I mentioned earlier at the outset, Jon Deluce, of the Abitibi Metals, you guys have got great connections, him especially, and you were able to get this. So tell us the genesis of this and a little bit of the history, Deepak, because this is a really cool story. And again, just the latest on a string of them where something that's someone else's trash becomes somebody else's treasure.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Look, I think Abitibi Metals really shows the blueprint of what we'd like to build out. We are looking for good assets, trying to fill that niche, that 20 to $100 million market cap niche, and really, if we grow from beyond that, that's obviously everyone's going to love that. But that was really our focus: is look for assets where we can come out in Quebec. We love Quebec, and gold is something that we've been bullish on for a long time. Jon has obviously, between Abitibi success, his family success in Quebec, been able to make inroads with a lot of different majors. And so Wallbridge Mining had this project that they've worked on for the past 15 years, on and off. And for them, this was something that's been a focus to advance, but really they had their hands full with Martinair and Fenelon. And so this is something that came across our radar when formation was getting listed. We looked at it and said, okay, this is obviously very interesting. Historic resource of almost 900,000 ounces. But what really, interested us was the work that was done. Look, Agnico was working on this project actually in 2007, 2008, and they gave it back after the Great Recession. Obviously, everyone's cutting back on exploration budgets. And again, like an orphan project, which is going to be to our gain, there were huge zones here that haven't been drilled. And there was a pathway to get to 2 to 3 million ounces without even touching the historic resource, right? I think a lot of companies, they go and they want to drill out their historical grades, go twin some holes and come out with information we already know. But I mean, the main zone is an example, the A zone, 500,000 ounces, only about 30% of the strike's been drilled. And the mineralization starts right at the surface. And it's that simple. This was something where we looked at and said, okay, wow, like we have probably over almost 12 kilometers of strike between the 5 zones to drill out. And that would be without touching any gaps in the existing or in the historical resource. And so saw this project, Wallbridge was interested. They love the structure of the company. As with all of our companies, we like to make sure management and strategic partners own a lot of it. We put our money where our mouth is. And so between the structure, the team, we were able to acquire this from Wallbridge. And, I think they're going to support the company as we move forward here over the next few years and work on N2. And so here we are, a brand new company with almost 1 million ounces in a gold bull market. So.
Now, I want to explain to folks because some people who don't follow the mining space aren't quite as aware of this. But you mentioned historical resources and the definition of that, and augment me where I might leave something out, Deepak. But in the past, companies had a different regimen. They would go drill and they would make calculations to figure out, okay, here's how many ounces we think we have. That has been standardized in recent years, and some of you are familiar with when you see the little moniker NI 43101, National Instrument 43101. That is the current standard that companies need to meet. And so all you're saying here is that you've got a historical resource that was done under the old calculations that would need to be updated technically to meet the new ones, but doesn't mean it's not there.
Well, that's exactly it, right? I mean, I think the two things are, one, exactly what you laid out, which is that you have something that was done by somebody else outside the current standard, and standards are meant to evolve and improve. But the second part of it is that you actually can't call it your own resource unless you've done your own resource estimate. So even if it was produced by somebody last month and we acquired it, it would still not technically be our resource. And so I think what you've said is exactly it. And that's why our focus on discovery. We know that there's gold here. One of the crazier stats that we've seen is almost 70% of the holes here have gold mineralization. We've seen 236 holes drilled on this project, over 50,000 meters, and that's a pretty impressive hit rate. The A zone has 84% mineralization in the drill. It's one of those things where it's kind of cool. Where we're looking at these sections, we're building out our models, we're going, we poke a hole here, we're definitely going to hit. We poke a hole here, we're definitely going to hit. And I think that's what really attracted us, right? With over 10 kilometers of strike left to drill, like there is an actual pathway here to multi-million ounce deposit. And so, and that's when we'll call it our deposit. It'll be current.
Right. Well, and as we've been talking, I put a couple of things up on a screen. One of them shows all of the different neighbors and the current and past producing mines. And again, you can't say enough about the Abitibi-Greenstone Belt. It's one of the best places literally on the planet to explore.
Over 200 million ounces produced in the last 130 years. It's the most prolific geological belt in the world. So it's a good place to be.
And there's still a lot there. And so before we recorded, you were talking about your characterization of yourself and formation as being kind of the farm team.
Yeah.
that's looking to build up some of these assets and whatnot, and then get them into the big leagues later on through some fashion. So before you get to that, now the nearly 900,000 ounces of historical resource right now, how are you looking near term to augment that? You mentioned you got 12 kilometers of strike length total in a few different spots, and I'll put this back up on a screen. On the project. What are you looking to do specifically near term, like this year, as far as your priorities for
I
more?
mean, you heard it from the president, drill, baby, drill, right? I think that's what we got to do. I think, look, so the nice thing is because it's a robust database on the work that was done, we have a good understanding of what the system looks like today. We're going to do obviously some work in the short term, geophysics, just some more modeling ourselves to obviously measure 3 times and cut once. But really, it's drill, right? I think that ultimately this is a project where we're really hungry to make a discovery and build on the past. And so, what I'd like to do this year is drill 15,000 meters on this project. That's my goal. And that would be largely expansion drilling, right? We have some zones here which are very interesting. We want to do some pilot drilling too, where we'll do 2,000 meters, 2,000 meters. But really, it's to grow the main zones and build that out.
Okay, so and that won't necessarily lead to a global or total resource estimate. You're doing this as a first step,
Yeah,
correct?
I think so. I
To
think
get
that
more the measure of the size of the potential resource.
that's exactly it. Look, I
Okay.
think that there's 2 ways to go about it, right? We could incrementally grow the resource, or we could go and take some home run shots. And I really, I think this business is about taking home run shots, right? This is about going out there. Look, end of the day, again, let's fall back on the A zone, right? It's been drilled out just over 1.5 kilometers so far. There's over 3 kilometers left to go. We could drill 100-meter step out. We could drill a 300-meter step out, or we could just keep drilling throughout that 3 kilometer strike and let's see what's there, right? And
Sure.
end of the day, if we can start proving out this thing extends out to the entire breadth of almost 5 kilometers of strike, well, that zone is it's almost 2 million ounces. Well, we'll see. Obviously, geology, you can't do simple math, but the fact
No.
is we've got almost 70% of this zone left to drill out. And that's how we're going to grow this thing. And to your comment about the farm team, and what we were talking about earlier, that's really what our vision is, right? We've done it in the past. We're negotiating a deal right now in Usha with Stardust Power, and they've just signed a deal with Sumitomo for their project, and
Yep.
so we're excited, and that's moving along. I mean, it's taken some time because big things do take time, but that was a big deal. It's a 26 million US deal. Obviously hoping to close that this coming quarter. But that's really kind of our vision is we take these projects, we advance them to a stage where a company, Agnico's got some history with this project. They're buying up assets throughout Quebec and the world. That this is someone we can go revisit this project with and let them take it to production and let us do what we focus on, which is discovery. I don't want to produce gold. I want to hand this off to a major and have them partner with us. And I want to keep finding exciting projects like this where we can create a lot more value.
Okay.
These are the kind of projects which have been left by the wayside because look, let's face it, 1.5 grams was not exciting in 1994. It wasn't exciting in
No,
2004. It wasn't exciting in 2014. But nowadays, at the current price of gold, where gold is going, 1.5 grams is very exciting.
that's a
Now,
cash machine, you know.
that's exactly it. And it starts with that, like it's so all of a sudden, this is a project which I think that we were lucky to have gotten. And this is what we're hunting for because this is where I think you can create the most value for your shareholders. Find a project that is very interesting with a lot of smoke and develop it to a stage now where you can hand it off for a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, and I want to second that because one of the things I continually harp on is when you're looking for junior stories, which by definition are risky, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and they regularly do in one way or another. One of the ways that you mitigate risk is to find the right jockeys to bet on. Ron Turcotte was a Hall of Fame jockey and took Secretariat to those glorious Triple Crown wins back in 1973. But Turcotte wasn't chop liver himself. He rode some not so good horses to victory. So it helps to have the good asset. And I say that because your partner in this and an advisor to formation, Jonathan Deluce, I got to catch up with him and his brother Alex at the recent BMO conference down here in South Florida a couple or 3 weeks ago. And one of the things that really I think speaks well to him specifically and to you guys generally and your ability to find projects is that on paper, Abitibi Metals wasn't supposed to be at that conference. Okay.
Yeah.
It's too
Yeah,
small a
totally.
company.
100%. I know. I think it was
But
the smallest, by far the smallest market cap at BMO.
yeah, it was
It's
the
unreal,
smallest
right?
market
Very
cap
cool.
company there, and but yet he was one of the darlings there because BMO's people have gone up to visit Abitibi's projects, big copper discoveries that he's been making recently, and they
Yeah.
know that he's got the chops to find things like this. So it's to everybody's benefit that he was able to make this deal on N2 and bring it into the project. I know he's got some skin in the game with Formation Metals as well.
Yeah.
Are you guys looking for any more creative gold deals to bring into the fold?
Always. You know
Always.
what? I think we've had two conversations this week alone, right? I think the advantage we have is we've got a great structure, as I said. We've got a strong balance sheet. Right? We've got 2 million right now, but we actually have over $5 million of in the money warrants that are owned by strategic partners, management insiders. So that's actual money that can come in as we see fit. Where we don't have to, there's no need for us to do a financing. And I think
Right.
that puts us in such a strong position.
So you guys can write checks for those warrants and up the till the timing is right.
That's exactly it. There's no, for us, there's no need to do a financing. We don't anticipate doing a financing anytime soon. If we did a financing, it would be a charity flow where we would be funding the back end of a much larger, less dilutive work program. And that's really what we need. We've got some really big, strong hands in this deal outside of just Jon, me, our respective families. We have a lot of people here who with one major shareholder, for example, who, when the time came and we ran a warrant program at 20, he wrote a check for 600,000 and he's happy to write more. For him, he understands the vision. I'm obviously very thrilled that he's backing me. You need people like that supporting you in this business, and that really opens up the M&A doors for us because now that we're trading, we're getting the news out there. I think we're in a position of strength to negotiate with a lot of companies because let's face it, there are a lot of projects in companies that are either core, but they can't raise the money to advance them and they need help, or non-core where they're focused on something else and they need to find some way to monetize them. And we can
Yeah.
pounce on both opportunities. So
That's cool. Well, and I think there's a lot of them out there. You and I are going to have to talk about a couple of them separately that I know about of companies that weren't able to make a go of it, and somebody needs to make a go, and that's for darn sure. So great. Look, folks, as I said at the outset, this is a great story from people who have got the connections and the chops and the financial ability to make a go of stuff that other people have left behind. Great story in this gold bull market. Again, here on the screen is the information on how to follow Formation Metals. Go to their website, kick the tires, make sure you sign up for their notification list. And here again, stay in touch with yours truly. If you haven't already watched it, recently I did a video version of one of my more provocative special issues ever called "This Is Still Not Your Father's Gold Market." Some printed follow-ups to that are about to come out that will have some more information on Formation Metals as well. And make sure that you follow me because as time goes on and they have news, we put it out, they put it out, etc. So Deepak, great job getting this asset in there. I think it's going to be a winner, and I'll be looking forward to news as the months go by.
yeah, I'm excited. We're just getting started. I think this is going to be, we had the top performing stock in 2023. We're going to do the same thing in 2025. Watch.
I think you can. So, all right, thanks, buddy. We'll look forward to updating folks again in the not too distant future.
Take care. Thanks again.
For much more of the National Investor's cutting-edge content and actionable investment opportunities, make sure to subscribe to Chris's free content at nationalinvestor.com. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel too. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.